There's okay, have you heard of Miyamoto Musashi? So he's like the samurai who won 60 one-on-one duels, but he was an artist as well and like a writer. And one of the things he said is like, if you master one thing, you learn how to master things, right?
Yes.
It's the idea of there's this thing called a meta skill, where you learn this one skill and it applies across everything you do.
I will make it, so don't worry, you're going to see some spacing in between there. I'm
Yeah,
going to give it some space, but it's going to be feathering line work as opposed to New York. Is your mom?
Because I feel like growing up, like the Hindu gods were almost like the Marvel superheroes
Yeah.
to like little kids, because like the stories and like they do cool shit. Siddartha, like I was thinking about getting a Buddha tattoo, but then when I came across this, I was like, oh my god, Krishna.
That's so sick. So welcome, Siddartha. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How did this opportunity happen with TED Talks, firstly?
It's crazy because like it was like a small show in Brampton of all places, and one of the people who came to watch, shout out Saif, was a part of the TEDx team at TMU.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he came to watch, and after the show, he hit me up on Instagram and he said, "Hey, we're looking for speakers for our TED Talk conference in February," and he was like, "I think you'd be a great applicant." When we were talking about doing the talk, I was like, okay, I'm a rapper, I'm a musician, but if we're being honest, nobody knows me. So I was like, is it possible for me to do that? And they're like, yo, sure, why not? And I was really surprised because I've never seen it. So I was super happy that they let me do that. And actually, I learned to play piano for the TED Talk.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't play piano?
No,
I was
not
gonna
really.
ask
The
about your
only songs I
instruments.
know are my right now, yeah.
And you talked a lot about the creative process, which is what I saw so much value in, just with creativity. Like, why did it compel you to have that as the main topic?
Well, I think first and foremost for me, I was like, being a TEDx speaker, what is it that I can provide to people? You know, because I didn't want to just go up there and be like, hey, I'm a rapper. Like, I didn't want it to be self-promo. So for me, I was like, if nobody knows me, like, can they take value from this? And I'm like, okay, creativity. Like, everything I do, especially with making music, it's been such a journey that I felt like I could speak from that lens. And I wanted to just empower anyone who is, you know, trying to be creative. So, yeah, super important.
What did you discover about creativity?
I think the biggest thing for me was that we need problems to create, to be creative. That was the biggest one, you know, because I always used to obsess over like, oh, like, you know, if you have writer's block, why can't I get this verse? Why can't I do this thing? And I realized that creativity is meant to solve problems. And sometimes when you view things from the artistic lens, we lose sight of that a little bit. That it's like, okay, this is doing something for you. This is doing something for somebody who takes it in, even if it's a piece of art that they look at the wall, if it's a piece of music they listen to. So what is it doing for you, you know? Even if it's just for the sake of it being beautiful, that gives you a sense of relief. It gives you a sense of escapism. So a lot of the times we'd have issues or resent the fact that we're having writer's block or having trouble being creative.
I'm so hard on myself when it comes
Yeah.
to the guilt, right? Of just not performing. When
Yeah,
really it's like, where do we get that inspiration?
Exactly. But the fact that you're having problems being creative is an opportunity to be creative.
There you go.
So anytime there's a problem, it really is an opportunity for you to use your creativity. And the moment I kind of had that epiphany, I was like, oh, okay. It was kind of life-changing for me. And so then I just really wanted to share it.
Like, did you always think this way when it came to seeing these problems or these, I guess, blockages as opportunities?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
Like that, I would say is more recent. I think it's because I went through years of like struggling with, creativity and output and like how to facilitate that I was able to come across that kind of epiphany. Yeah. So no, that was took years of investment to figure that out and to just have a healthier relationship with what you create.
Do you find that you have now? Like, you can detach from, you know, just the projects and not feel too worried if it doesn't become successful or.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because now, if you look at, let's say you have a goal to make a song, right? And if you only look at it as that song, then yes, you can fail or you can succeed. And you can be like, I really like the song, people really like the song, or I don't really like the song. But the moment you widen your scope, and like, let's say you don't like the song, but because you found out what you don't like, that orients you to what you do like for the next song.
I love your perspective on that and just the mindset of
Yeah.
like pivoting.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. So I think the quickest way to find out what you want for yourself is to find out what you don't want.
Yeah.
And you just course correct from there. I think we spend so much time trying to find the right answer when really, like, you just got to stumble across a lot of the wrong answers and you'll eventually get to what feels authentic to you. I really do believe that given enough time and compassion, anybody can adopt that mindset. And that's really what it is. It's compassion, having self-compassion. Because, if you're failing, you're going to speak to yourself one way. But imagine if it was your best friend, how would you speak to them? And the moment you notice like a big difference in that tone, like when you speak to yourself, you're like, oh, I'm so trash, like why can't I get it right? But the moment you put someone else in your perspective, you'd immediately go, hey, it's okay, you'll get it. Like give yourself time, this is part of the process. So I think that self-compassion is a skill that anybody can learn.
And even confidence too, right? That's a
Yeah.
muscle that needs to be built.
Yeah.
You're just not born feeling this.
No,
You know?
no.
Like this.
But you know what is funny? Like when it comes to confidence, I do believe that showing up is probably the biggest way to build your confidence. Because the thing is, you can put as many affirmations as you want, but sometimes if your self-talk is really negative, you do need to be able to look back and like have a bit of evidence for yourself. Like, yo, you know what? I've made music for this long. I made this many tracks. Or if you're going to, I don't know, you're working out, you're like, yo, I've gone to the gym semi-consistently for the past 6 months. There's, it's a mix. Yeah.
Just feeling grateful for how far you've come.
Yeah. Sometimes I think action is the quickest way to change your mindset. Because if you just if the problem is with your thoughts, you're basically working with like a broken machine, right? And then you're trying to get that broken machine to fix itself.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're like, damn, I'm really mean to myself when I think. I'm going to take that same machine that's thinking and try and be nicer. It's like sometimes you need external stimulus. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a current problem, a creative problem that you're going through right now that you're trying to overcome? Like what is just, your journey at the moment?
I think for me, it's finding out, my biggest creative problem is like finding out how to display my personality through my art, like even through my content. Like just sometimes I was trying really hard to show people, yo, I'm a dope rapper. You know how rappers are. Like we just like, yo, I gotta be the dopest, right?
Yeah.
So I was just trying to show people like, yo, I can really rap. Like I really do this. And then as a result, I think it made my content and the things that I created really stiff. Because I was coming from a place of, oh, I have to prove to people, as opposed to what do I authentically want to express.
When you opened up in the TED Talk about your brother, that is so courageous to be able to share his story. So tell me more about just like him and how he inspired your music.
Oh yeah, I mean like, shit, where do I start? Everything. Like he had been rapping since we were young, so maybe I was like 5, he was 7. So he was 2 years older than me, and like I think he was inspired by my cousin, Alan. And so he like introduced me to like Tupac and all these people, and then he would like sit me down and just like freestyle in front of me, put on beats and just like practice his freestyling for like 2 hours. He would show me whenever he had a verse. Like he was, yeah, it's crazy to think about how much that might have affected me growing up, to be able to see like your older siblings so passionate about something. So yeah, he's the only reason I'm making music, to be honest. And so I used to like, when he was alive, I used to like rap in secret.
In secret.
Yeah, just because, you know.
You had your own journal too? Like,
Yeah. So I would like write songs in secret. And then I never showed him. I just did it. And then in high school, a lot of my friends were in the music program because we went to an art school. So then I started like picking it up a little bit more there. And then, yeah, there was only 1 or 2 occasions where there was like a freestyle circle at the YMCA and my brother would rap. And then I would join him for a second, but mine would be ass. Like I'd be super trash. Yeah.
The first time's never gonna be
Yeah. But no, the whole reason to make music is because of him, for sure.
And what was his story? Like, how, if you don't mind me asking certain...
Yeah, no, of course. It's funny. So my brother, even to this day, I don't think I've met anybody as, how do we say this? As enigmatic as him. Okay. Like he was just, he was a wild child. Like softly put it. He was the type where our dynamic was really interesting because basically I was the good kid in school. Like I always did well in school. He got into a lot of trouble. Like he would get into fights and stuff growing up. But he was like the tough kid that like the girls all followed around and like, and I was super fortunate. Like growing up in school, nobody messed with me because they knew who my older brother was. So I always feel like this eternal gratitude to him because I feel like he just went through so much and then I didn't have to. Yeah, so our dynamic was like, it was basically this. He's fire and I'm water. Yes. That's what it was. Like, and he was so mischievous. Like sometimes when he first started driving, he'd pick me up from school and then he'd just like swerve the car in the lane just to fuck with me. He'd be like, whoop, whoop. Yeah. One time he drove off a bridge down a green hill just to like
off a bridge?
Yeah, it was wild.
Wait, what?
Yeah, nah, he's dope. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Just like give me a little shake. It's because I fell asleep in the car.
Okay.
And then
oh my god.
Yeah, so he was the type, he'd pull up to high school. Every day he'd drive to high school with a football helmet on. And people were like, why are you, because he was on the football team. So he was super athletic. He went to the gym, football team, did the wrestling team, did lacrosse. And I was like more of like the brainy nerd kid, right?
Yes.
So I heard stories from the kids at my high school that he pulled up to his school with a boombox on his shoulder and a mic, and then he just started freestyling in the middle of the hallway.
He pulled up the
yeah. And then
love it. So he just like was just such a unique like soul.
Yeah,
like he would just do his thing whenever he wanted to.
Yeah, he was the type where like if he felt something, he felt it strongly. Like he couldn't. Yeah, he was a superhero, to be honest. It's like it's still crazy. Like he's a person that was unbelievable, and he was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Sounds like a huge role model.
Yeah.
He continues to be, right?
Yeah, 100%. He's super lovable. Like you know that person who's just authentic. They'll like drive you up the wall, but you're like yeah, but you're so you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
I'll accept all of you.
Yeah. I remember after he passed, like his ex, like someone who he used to date, she told me a story, and I wish she could be here to tell the story, but apparently they got into a fight once, and they were just like yelling, and there's like a bridge, and my brother just stops, and he's like, yo, my bad, I gotta handle this. And she's like, what? And they're in high school, right? And you know, like brown relationships in high school, you don't get to, you get like an hour or 2 max before your parents are like, where are you?
Oh yes. Yeah.
So he just goes down to like the river and starts cleaning it up because he saw garbage in it. And it's like muddy and shit. And she's like, what is going on? Like, and so she told me she was so baffled that she just joined him. So yeah, she just joined, like she was just, I guess we're going to clean this shit up. Yeah.
And then story, whenever you fight with your girl, just pick up some garbage.
Just pick up some garbage facts. Just be a good Samaritan. Be like, damn, my bad, I got to handle this real quick.
What has his death taught you through this time?
Damn. first and foremost, it introduced me to the fragility of life. And again, like I said, I was pretty studious, right? So I was valedictorian, or one of the valedictorians at my school. It was always a given to me, like, go to university, do what you need to do. I think I'd probably would have become a teacher or go into acting or something of the sort, but like still through academics, right? Um, and immediately when he passed, I was like, nah.
You changed your whole
I was
trajectory.
yeah. I actually accepted my offer to go to McMaster's. I was accepted to like U of T, McMaster's, a couple other universities, and I accepted, and I never showed up. I just didn't show up to like. I stopped responding to their emails. I didn't even tell my parents. I like just didn't show up, and then um, it took a couple months. Obviously, I was grieving. So, but then eventually, I was like, okay, music's. Honestly, I did it because I had a chip on my shoulder. To be honest, like,
Because you mentioned music saved you. How did
yeah.
it save you?
It allowed me to express myself, my grief, and carry on my brother's legacy at the same time. Because when he passed, honestly, I was angry. Because he was my hero. I thought he'd be the biggest artist or like one of the most impactful artists. I genuinely saw him as like a Tupac, you know, no exaggeration. Because he was just that special of an individual. Like you just can't, it was uncanny. So I was mad. I had a chip on my shoulder. So my first thought really was, I'm gonna show you that you could have done this. Like you were supposed to be here. So it actually came from that place. And then throughout, as I made the project and like processed a lot of my feelings, I was like, it just became my way to pay homage to him.
Because you came from academia and that side of things, and then all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah.
you kind of took on his
Yeah.
creative role. Okay.
I knew I could write. I'm gonna be honest, I was trash though. Like, and my friends were in the music program. They were dope, and they can even tell you like, no one expected it from me, because I wasn't. I love music, and I'm a dancer, so I'm always surrounded by music peripherally, but I'm not a music head. In terms of, I can't tell you this record from this era, like, or these artists. So everyone was kind of like, okay, you're doing this, I guess.
You just didn't, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
accept it now.
Yeah, I don't think I ever thought I had the talent for it. I just thought I'd rather say that I gave it my all. Like if I was to die the next year, I don't know. I think that's what it was. Like the idea of death became so apparent to me that it didn't matter how much potential I had. It was just kind of like, okay, you do it. Yeah.
So that just wanting to bring on his legacy really just trumped all the fear that you had within you.
Yeah. It was so funny too, because I was asking my homie Raheem, who's like one of my favorite artists as well, and I would say my peers are also my mentor. Like Lin Val and my closest friends, Lin Val, Raheem, like just they taught me to produce because they were making beats since high school, and so this is after my brother passed. I'm sitting down and I'm like, I'm not sure what to do, and Raheem's like, go to school for audio engineering. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, if you want to be a rapper, you should probably learn the back end, like how to be an engineer and all of that. And I literally dead ass just had no idea what else to do. So I was like, okay, that same day I filled out the application. I sent it to Metalworks. I went to school. And then, yeah, because my whole life had been turned upside down because my brother passed at prom.
At prom.
Yeah, so I found out coming back from prom, and like he died to suicide, but he had self-harmed before, and so I'd actually taken his bloody shirt with me to prom. I took his, and this is a lyric in one of my, but like in the song Time, where I took his bloody shirt to prom with me, and because I just didn't know how to cope, so I just kept it in the car in some weird way, and then during prom I like threw it in the lake. I was just like, okay, like he's gonna be okay. And then on my way back I found out he passed, and it was like, yeah, it was fucked up. So right as I graduated, right, so when you're 17 and you think you're gonna go and do all these things, and then I was just lost. I was lost for a couple months, maybe up to a year, and so that's when I was like, okay, I gotta figure something out. And then, fast forward, and then Raheem's just like, yeah, go to school for audio engineering. And I'm like, okay, cool.
It's amazing to have people like that in your life,
Yeah.
right?
So, honestly, music just allowed me to process my feelings, especially because I'm a lyrics first kind of guy. Like, a lot of the times I wouldn't be able to understand what was going on internally until I had written it down and then shared it with people and then watched like people take it in. Just the outlet of the release of one, writing it, two, vocalizing it, and then three, listening back to it. I feel like was such a therapeutic experience looking back. Like it was all just kind of happening in the moment. And also this project was deep, right? Because not only was I just writing songs, I was actively going through my brother's voice recordings and his rap journal.
So you were uncovering pieces of him that you didn't even know
Not at
through
all.
such
Yeah.
depth. And because when we were talking about the reflections of a stranger,
Yeah.
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 What did you learn about him through that experience?
Honestly, I learned what he was going through. Like when you're the troubled kid in school, people are always looking down on you. Or if you don't excel academically or you don't thrive in that environment, you have a chip on your shoulder. You have to figure out, like, you have to prove to everybody. And looking at his lyrics, because it was his rap book, right? So none of it was ever a direct journal of I went through this today. Most of it was through lyrics. You could see like the level of fire he had in him. And also he was just like, I was just inspired because at the same time he would have moments where he talked to himself and be like, yo, you got it, like you can do this, take a deep breath.
Writing it down? Saying that?
His last journal entry was a month before he passed, and it's one of the most positive. And and I turned it into the outro of the album called Change.
Can you share that lyric or that last?
Yeah, let me see if I remember it. Change. Okay, I remember the last couple of lines where he goes, take a deep breath, relax. Everything will be okay. Everything is as it should be. And those were like his last written words as far as I know. Yeah. Something to that degree. I mean it's on Spotify, so if you listen to Change you'll hear it. Everything is okay. Everything is as it should be. Yeah. And I think that gave me a lot of peace. That like, okay, even though he was going through it so much internally, like he was fighting, So, yeah.
Did after he's passed, like how has this made you want to live your life now? Like what has it done for your life and the way you're going to move forward?
To live unapologetically.
Unapologetically.
To live unapologetically and authentically. I'm a people pleaser. My brother was not a people pleaser. My brother was by far, like, maybe he was, because people were always pleased around him because he was just so entertaining. So he was the class clown.
Yeah.
I wasn't a class clown. I was silly and witty at times. My brother was the typical class clown, gets into a lot of trouble, like, he was that archetype. And I think almost as a foil to him, like in contrast, I always felt like I had to be careful, or I was always thinking of the consequences, or just being like, okay, all right, how are we gonna clean this shit up? You done fucked up. What are we doing? All right, you hit the car into the door. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
cleaning up all the bull.
What are we gonna tell mom and dad?
Wow.
And so, with him gone, it's almost like I was just left with this constant, like this system that I had built for myself of like, okay, we always got to think about shit. It's like, without him there, it didn't serve the same function.
You didn't have to
Yeah.
put out any fires anymore.
Yeah, but then as a result, I felt like I was always putting out my own. So the one thing that I carry with him is just that, like, and you know, I'm still a different person. You know, I'm not trying to be him necessarily, but that part where he was just like, for example, we had this argument one time where he's like, anything's possible. I'm like, what do you mean anything's possible? Like, you can't fly. Like, you can't just, like, if I was to go jump off a building, he's like, nah, it's possible. Like, whatever you want, you can do it. There's never, like, and he was the type of person who would believe with such veracity that I'm just like, and in my head, I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, literally nothing. And I think in that moment, I was annoyed because I'm like, how can you say things like that? Like, how can you be so sure of things? You know, probably because I was jealous.
That he had that kind of
Yeah, that he's able to
mindset.
be so unapologetic, you
Yeah.
know, and so that he's just like, anything's possible. Like, you can figure it out. But he's not wrong, you know, given enough time and enough willingness and the ability to like resource and network. Like, if you think about how much the world has changed in the past 20 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And so,
mind-boggling.
so he, to me, that is one thing I take. And then the other thing I take from him really deeply is like, never judge anybody, you know? And that was something, I think, because I always excelled in school and I always like did well, or like things kind of came naturally to me to a degree. The arts was not one of them, but things kind of came
What
naturally.
did later?
Yeah, after a bit, but because things kind of came naturally to me, I might have been a bit smug without knowing it. Like, my brother would always be like, don't look down on people, you know? And like, we had this thing where I think I was jealous because he was always like the cool kid. Everybody loved him. He's unapologetic. But for him, he probably looked at me like, oh, this is a good kid. He's getting
Yes.
getting all this validation from, you know, school, especially a place that was a place of almost rejection from my brother, at least from the academic side.
So we kind of always want the things we don't
Yeah,
have.
the
isn't
grass
it?
is greener on the other
Yeah.
side. But one thing that he instilled in me is like, it doesn't matter what the person looks like, what they sound like, where they come from. You never judge them, you know, because like, you don't know what they've been through. And I think it resonates like really deeply, even as I say it now, because he spoke from such a real place, because he probably experienced so much judgment
Growing
up,
just, yeah.
you know?
Trying, because it is, you know, when you try to authentically be yourself, right?
Yeah.
There's always someone or another group of people who just can't accept that because they don't
Yeah.
accept it within themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
And I feel like he spent his
Yeah.
whole life doing that, and it's sad, you know, like, because he was such an outlier that I just wish that we caught up, you know?
Were you guys close at the end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
really?
close, thankfully.
Good.
And he was doing crazy stuff. Like, he was meditating every day. He was learning Sanskrit. Like, he was, you know, like a little yogi.
Oh, he's a yogi.
Yeah, like basically. I mean, even this. So like, my brother had a tail.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
What, does the tail represent
So
something?
so for me right now, I got it because my grandfather passed away last year, and so my family is Brahmin. They're like a type of Hindu, and you get this tail. You shave bald, and then you have like the tail, kind of like a monk, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
But my brother just had it, and he was the only one that had it. And after he had it during his time, everyone was copying him. Like, he was the type to start a trend.
Yes.
And so like, I ended up having it in school, like in my school, in my different school, and people like used to be like, oh my god, it's the kid with the rat tail. Yeah. Granted, I made it look way worse. He made it look really cool. Yeah. So yeah, I just feel like his. But back to what I was saying before, like the idea of never judging.
So have you had him in your life to teach you those moments
Yeah.
and to give you perspective, right? Like,
Yeah.
what a big bro.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my parents know this. It's funny because like, they never really had to check on me because I always did well in school, but they always were checking in on my brother, and sometimes that made me jealous too, right? Like, I'm like,
Got a lot of
you got
attention.
you got a lot of attention
Yeah.
just because he was fucking wild, right? So they had no choice. They're like, yo, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
But as a result, the person who gave me attention might not have been my parents, but it was my brother. Like, so my parents were like giving him all this attention, but I was so fortunate to get all this attention from him, not realizing it in the moment. So I'm so grateful. Like, and basically, he'd be like, "Don't do as I do, do as I say."
Yeah. That's his.
That was his thing.
Oh my
Yeah.
How is your relationship with your family now
Yeah.
after all of it?
For the longest time, it was hard. I was extremely, like, after my brother passed, I didn't know how to connect directly with my parents. Because I used to connect to my parents through my brother, almost. You know, they would ask me about him, or we'd talk about him, or like whatever, and they'd be like, okay, you're doing well in school, or, you know, and my brother's the reason I even went to art school. I wanted to go to his school with all my friends, but I had made it into the theater program, and him and my dad sat me down, and they're like, yo, you're going.
Oh, your dad wanted you to go too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So both my brother and my dad like sat down and they had this conversation of like, no, like you want to do this acting thing, like you're going to art school.
Yes.
And you know, but everything I did was because of my brother. The reason I wanted to be an actor, my brother wanted to be a director.
Really?
Yeah. The reason I started dancing.
Duo.
Yeah, my brother loved Michael Jackson, so there's a bunch of footage of him like dancing, and then he learned how to windmill when he was like 11 or something crazy. And so then I started wanting to dance, you know, like even music. So I literally was, because we were so close in age, but he was so passionate that it was almost hard not to get swept up in it. Like, you know, you just end up copying your older siblings at first.
You're infectious.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
I know he inspired a lot of it. Do you find like I guess like with the authenticity we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
is it starting to become just second nature now that you're able to just be like truly who you are?
yeah, you know what? It was
Yeah.
a deep internal journey for me because like my brother helped me start my journey. And then I also had to really come to terms with the fact that, okay, but you still are you.
Yes.
Like you're a different person, different experiences. Like you have to speak from your lens. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, now I feel like I'm definitely speaking from my experience with my own voice. That's, you know, he's always behind it though. But, yeah. So,
With every step you take, he's kind of a part of that, and
yeah.
that's so beautiful.
Yeah. And a good marker for authenticity for me is like,
Yeah.
do I hesitate saying it out loud? Okay, it's probably really true.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the things that you're like, damn, I feel scared to share this.
Yeah.
It's when you know you're being like vulnerable.
Yes.
Um,
What are the things currently that you're afraid to share? I know. Now that you put it up.
damn.
Is it talking about obviously him, or is it more of relationships, or just the future? Like what?
Yeah, I think a lot. Like even now, I made that whole project and I never promoted it.
You haven't.
No, I didn't really.
Oh.
I didn't promote Reflections of a Stranger at all. Like I just went on to making the next thing because it felt so close to home. And I was like, yo, I don't think I made it good enough. Like it's not clean. Like I was learning everything. Like it means the world to me, but I'm like, because I'm a people pleaser. I'm just like, okay, but it's not like I tried to make hit records or anything. So I wasn't able to share it. And even now talking about it, like this is new.
Okay.
The first time I publicly spoke about it was the TED Talk since releasing it. Yeah.
You've been holding this deep in
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, just because it's so vulnerable. So that's one thing. But in terms of these days, so I'm working on my next project and it's called Late Bloomers. And so it's the idea of like feeling like we're too late. You know, if you're not 21 and famous as a rapper, like you should quit because it's a young person's game, right? And just that idea of like attaching a time or a deadline to expression and ideas and things that can be helpful to people. So like just my own insecurities, I think that's what I'm targeting.
You feel like a late bloomer.
Yeah, definitely.
Most of the way.
For multiple reasons. You know, I started dance at 16.
Yeah.
I decided I'd make music at 18. You know, like
Not that young? Is that not young?
it's young,
Yeah.
but to start from scratch really, to really like,
Okay.
you know, like a lot of people are like, oh, I knew I was gonna make music since I was 5 or 10, or like, you know, you look at those famous artists and you see like all this, and I was like, nah.
They kind of knew from the get-go
Yeah,
like, what
yeah.
they were gonna be. What advice would you give younger artists who are looking for those
Yeah.
financial backing just to like pursue, you know, their dreams and their projects?
Well, first and foremost, I think the number one thing that I've done that's because I came out of nowhere. Like nobody knew I made music until 2018 or 2019. Everybody just saw me as a dancer.
So that was your identity.
Yeah. So not only did my parents not know until I was like 20, but nobody knew until I was like 22, 23, socially, that I was making music for real. So I spent 4 or 5 years just developing myself until I thought I was good enough. Um, I would tell artists, first, develop the music, make sure it's at a level where you're really proud of it. But then to get those resources, you just gotta apply. Like you gotta apply and get rejected. You know, everyone will hear about the grant I got, but no one's gonna hear about the 10 like grants I didn't get, the 10 applications I didn't get. You know, and there's nothing more sobering than when you don't get accepted and you look back at your application and you're like, oh, this is kind of trash. You know?
Yes, yeah.
Or when you take a workshop and they show you how to write an application and then you compare it to what you wrote and you're like, oh yeah, I really did not deserve this money. So
reality hits. They're
100
like, yeah, well, I kind of slipped through the cracks with this.
Yeah. Or it's like, or you can have a great application, but the music's not there. So for any artist who's, I'm gonna assume that you're confident in your music at this point. Is like you gotta apply everything I've gotten as a music artist. Started off with an application. I would say the first time I really started, it's not like I've blown up now, but that I started making waves in the city or in the community is when I applied for Manifesto at the Discovery Series. I was out of 150 people, and I got selected as one of the artists. I think as the one artist for the Discovery Series. And like I had to apply, I did an audition, and I spent so many years developing my craft that at that point I was confident enough to like do that. But then after that, do you know Rise Edutainment?
Yes.
Yeah, so they had a thing called Rise and Flow. It was a competition, a challenge, where they select artists. There was 135 applicants, and you basically submit your application, then they pick top 32. Out of those top 32, you have to do an audition, then they select top 16. Once you do top 16, it's an online challenge where you got to get the most comments on a post.
Oh, it's become a social media challenge
Yeah, a social media challenge. Then it was like almost tournament style after top 16, top 8, where this is where you go on stage and you do a final performance. And then I won. Like they selected, there were 4 winners, and I won along some other amazing artists, top 4. And so, and it was judged by some crazy people like Toby, Luke Calla, and then Randell, of course. And so,
how did you feel in that moment when you got just announcing that you won? Like to at least be in the top?
Yo, I was grateful. Yeah. I was just like, damn, we did it. Yeah. But at the same time, I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. Yes. I was like, yeah. Okay. Because also I come from street dance, right? So this entire time as this music journey is going on, I'm also battling. So I'm like doing street dance at a somewhat high level, just battling, competing, traveling. And so this type of competitive environment for me was so natural. And in fact, it was easier because with music, everybody's scared. They're like, oh, we have to compare our art to each other. When you dance battle, there's somebody in your face like trying to roast you. Yeah. So
you got to show up right there.
Yeah. And so there was like, I think I had that competitive edge to me. Whereas if I didn't dance, I'd probably be rap battling, Yes. But
so you're better in the fire. Like you like the pressure.
Yeah, I love the idea of competition. But really these days it's just competition with yourself. Like did I do better than what I thought I could do? Did I do better than me yesterday?
When it comes to competition in dance and even with music, how do you keep a level head and quit?
So this was last year actually. Like I just felt out of shape, like I hadn't been dancing or training, and I took it so seriously at one point. I hadn't been training and it just felt inauthentic to me. I was like, damn, like I'm just gonna get roasted, because I don't do dance shows. I literally just like to battle. I don't perform too often. So I was just like, and I'm seeing all my peers who are so amazing. I'm such big fans of them, and I'm just like, maybe I can't do both at once. Like when I first started music, I made this pact to myself, like, I'm not compromising music or dance. I'm doing them both. And then last year, or a year and a half ago, this was before I started going to the gym. I just felt out of shape, like my body wasn't moving. And I tore my meniscus back in 2018. So since that injury, like a knee injury, I'm just like, oh man, like maybe I can't do this anymore. I was scared. But then I started going to the gym, and literally this January, I was like, yo, I feel like stronger
Yes.
than before. And it had been about like 8 months of going to the gym consistently.
Yeah.
I started showing up to competitions. It's September now. Within the past, like, actually within 6 months, I had won like 6 to 7 months. I'd won 10 battles.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have like a bunch of plaques in my closet, all from this year.
That's wow.
Yeah.
Going from wanting to quit to just
Yeah, yeah,
taking over.
yeah, literally. And it's not even the wins that it's
Yeah.
like, yo, when I'm there, I feel present. I feel in the moment. I feel like, so I think I just got in my head a bit, and I was like, yo, can I really do both? And then I sat with myself, and I'm like, yeah, you definitely can.
It's balance, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
It is hard to have, because that's also something similar. A lot of artists go through. It's like we want to just go through different mediums and
Yeah.
express ourselves in that way. And it's pretty incredible to hear you master these so significantly to
Thank
that point.
you. Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, yeah, you said it's balance, right? But someone told me, a previous partner of mine actually told me, like, sometimes it's not balance, it's harmony.
Oof, oof.
And that's different.
That's better.
Because sometimes
Yeah.
some things will take more in the forefront. Like sometimes I'll have a season that's heavily music oriented. Sometimes I'll have a season that's more heavily dance focused. And so understanding that these things can harmonize with each other if you let them be what they are in that moment. And like probably me taking a step back from dance made me better in certain ways, because like the experience I gained as a musician, vice versa. Like when I took a step back from music, that made me better as a dancer, because learning to make beats, like knowing what it is to make a song, makes you better at listening to music as a dancer, especially in the moment. You understand song structure. So yeah, so harmony and just acknowledging, yeah, you can be a multidisciplinary artist. You can like more than one thing, and you can be good at more than one thing, and you can enjoy more than one thing, and you don't like let's say one of your arts is making you money.
Yes.
That doesn't make that more important to you than the other one. You know, like, and having something that where you can express yourself in a different way, it makes your relationship with the other art healthier. You know, because if you go to one person for everything, let's say you have one best friend and they have to take on the burden of everything, that relationship can get tiring for that person.
So right.
And it's the same thing with art. Okay, if I have to go to music not only to express my deepest vulnerabilities, but to take care of my finances for me at all times,
That might come at a pressure.
yeah,
like
you're gonna have a skewed relationship with your art. But sometimes, to be honest, it's like, okay, I'm going to music. Music is cutting me a check right now. I just need to express myself though. I'm gonna move. I'm just gonna dance. You know, so, and then when I'm dancing and I'm tired, I'm like, damn, I feel stale, like I'm doing the same movements all the time. I can go to music. So having multiple, if you're creative, I think like having multiple desires to want to, or multiple outlets is natural. Okay, have you heard of Miyamoto Musashi? So he's like the samurai who won 60 one-on-one duels, but he was an artist as well and like a writer. And one of the things he said is like, if you master one thing, you learn how to master things, right?
Yes.
It's the idea of, there's this thing called a meta skill, where you learn this one skill and it applies across everything you do. So one of them is sleep. If you know how to sleep properly, everything you do is better. Your relationships are better, your work is better. But another one of them is learning how to learn.
Learning how to learn.
So the good thing about dance is it teaches you how to use your body. And everything we do is technically from our bodies. So when I play piano, to me that's choreography.
With your fingers.
Right.
Yes.
Or when I rap a song, it's choreography with my voice, my vocal cords, you know? And if you like learning how to learn, it's repetition, variation, you know? Like you repeat something and then you play with it. And so, yeah, like technically if I never learned dance, it would take me a lot longer to learn other skills.
So having done a dance first,
Yeah.
created like a bigger foundation.
Maybe, yeah, honestly.
At least for you.
Yeah, at least for me. But I think, but if you think about it, somebody who plays an instrument can probably learn how to dance as much as they may not believe it.
I'm sure they could. good.
Yeah, right? Because they know what it takes to learn something deeply, to have like a deep relationship with learning a craft. Because the brain learns everything in the same way. You have one brain, it learns things in the same way. So if you can learn one thing, there's no reason why you can't learn another. It's just whether you want to,
Yes.
or whether it's enjoyable enough for you to learn, or whether you have good resources or good practices. That's what having a teacher is for. They'll tell you like what things to practice.
Did you have a lot of mentors growing up? Like,
Yes.
who were those, especially for dance as well for you?
Yeah, so I was super blessed. I think one of the reasons that I am like one of the higher level skilled dancers in the city, if not like in the top echelon, is because of my first teacher, Frequency. So he's, in my opinion, one of the best popping teachers in Canada. And he came from Montreal. So he had trained like this other famous dancer. And he came to Toronto and he was teaching a workshop for 6 months. And I was 16 at the time, and I was telling my best friend, and it was $400, which is a lot of money when you're 16.
Yes.
But for 6 months, it's super cheap now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, or I think it was 600, whatever it was. So I'm like, yo, we got to take this workshop because he's worked with such and such. And then so we both convinced our parents to learn under Freak.
Yeah.
And yeah, from then on, like we'd go to his class twice a week. We'd go to high school, come back on Thursdays, learn from him at Gotta Dance Studios here.
Yeah.
And then like the rest is history. But at the same time, I want to say like I feel like I was proactive in being drawn to those energies and wanting to not only learn from them, but then give back.
So tell me more about just why you got this tattoo and
Right.
what does it mean to you?
Right.
So for those who don't know who Krishna is,
Yeah.
explain.
So Krishna is the god of love and compassion. And so there, yeah, this tattoo is actually, oh my God, it looks so sick. Anyways, I got this tattoo because Krishna is a musician and a dancer as well. So I think he exudes kind of, like I just feel a kinsmanship to Krishna. Because like I said, I almost quit dance at one point. Or there was a point where like when because you know there was this narrative of 10,000 hours. If I'm going to learn music from scratch, which I did, like then I have to commit all my time to it. And now I've come to this place where I realize I can do it all and they can feed into each other, especially since dance and music are so related. So, and Krishna was like one of my favorite gods growing up as a kid, like his mythological stories and like, so for me, or playing the flute. The flute was one of the first instruments I ever wanted to play.
Did you learn the flute?
No, I did not. I did not. I ended up not learning any instrument. I taught myself the piano, but maybe one day. So
Yeah,
the
never
flute.
say never.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the flute was one of the first instruments I ever wanted to play, and because of Krishna, and also Krishna is one of the main characters of this book called the Bhagavad Gita, which is like a religious story, and my brother used to read the Bhagavad Gita a lot. So it just had so many meanings. Like it felt so right. I was like, okay, there's this God who makes music, who dances. My cultural heritage of like Hinduism and being Indian, and then also my brother really loved the book. So I don't think I could find a more meaningful tattoo.
100%.
Yeah.
Probably the best way to
Yeah.
have your first tattoo.
Yeah.
And through this experience as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, thank you. And also, I think because he's the God
Yeah.
of compassion, like whenever I think,
Compassion as well. Wow,
Yeah.
it wears many hats.
Yeah.
Like carries a lot of just valuable
yeah,
traits.
yeah. So for me, I think like looking at it will remind me of self-compassion as well. For me, it's a reminder. I like functionally, it's a reminder. It's like, what are the things that you find have become a permanent part of you already? Like this is a permanent part of me internally, and so expressing it will remind you. Two, it's just like cool. I just think they look cool as shit. I always thought tattoos look cool. My favorite anime characters got tattoos. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Like just like I don't know. I like the visual, like the idea of it. I love the idea of treating the body like art as well. Because sometimes even if it doesn't have meaning, but you just love it visually or aesthetically, I think those are cool tattoos too.
They definitely have a place in this world too. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be so deep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure eventually you'll find a meaning.
Yeah, one of my dance crewmates, RV, he he has a bunch of tattoos, and he's just like, bro, I look at my body as a canvas for the artist, and it's a way for me to like immortalize this artist and their style or like their art. And I'm like, that's a beautiful way.
Isn't it?
Yeah, like what a what
Yes.
a beautiful way to view tattoos.
Yes, I wanted to kind of segue into just back into your talk, and
No.
what I really loved and what really like hit me is when you talked about like stillness and how stillness is needed so that you could place your puzzle pieces
Yeah.
on like just a steady surface.
Yeah.
And I was like bars, straight bars.
Right.
Why is this so important for us to have stillness? Like, how did you discover that?
Honestly, just because I think in today's day and age, there's so many things asking us for attention. So everything is asking us for our time and our attention, and that's like our most valuable resource. And as a creative, like, why do we create? One, because there are problems. Two, because we're bored.
Yeah.
You need time to be able to think of a solution. And you know, when I thought about it, when did I get my greatest ideas as a songwriter? When I'm like in the shower, when I'm driving. Like I drive without music.
You do?
Yep.
Oh.
And when did I have the hardest time sleeping? When my thoughts were running rampant. Why were my thoughts running rampant? Because I gave myself no time to think during the day. You know, like I was, you know, like I'm a bit of a weeb. Like I play video games and stuff, and I don't play actually barely at all these days, like for the past while, but I was always distracting myself. I think I love fantasy. Like as a kid, like I think escapism was a real thing for me. And and then I just realized like, yeah, to create, you need silence because there's so much in us already that's bubbling up. There's so much, and if you never give it time to surface and you're always taking things in, like you rob yourself of the opportunity to express.
And then, like, when it comes to fear, like, how do you overcome that? Like, what's
Well, actually, I think that was my favorite excerpt from the TED Talk. Because when you think about courage, right? Most people think that's facing your fears or overcoming it. Like, okay, to be courageous, one, you have to be afraid of something. Because if you can just do it easily, you're not being courageous, right? So by definition, you have to be afraid of it already. So one of the lines I have in the TED Talk is like, courage isn't facing your fears or overcoming them. Courage is just being afraid of the right things. And if you think about it, and I wish I could have explained it in more detail, but we have a limited time. If you think about it, okay, if there's a burning building and you left your iPhone in there, are you going to go get your iPhone? No.
not?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
If there's a burning building and your child is in there, are you going to go get your child? What's the difference?
Just it's a life. It's the value you put on, like, you know.
So you're more afraid of losing your child than being burned.
Yes.
And when I think about why I made music, right?
Yeah.
It's scary to make music and pick that as a profession and to try and make money off of music. But what was scarier to me was my brother's legacy dying. Me losing my brother's memory, me like not being able to express myself, or me settling in life. So when it comes to fear, I don't overcome my fear, I just lean into it. And I just try and be as authentic as possible. And I don't go, how do I get rid of this fear? I go, if I had to pick, what am I really more afraid of? And when you decide what you're really more afraid of, it puts the other fear into perspective. You know? Like you decided to be a tattoo artist.
Yes.
And that's scary.
Absolutely.
But like what's scarier?
Not pursuing my highest potential and doing what I love, and that's creating art and, you know, connecting with other people.
Exactly. And so for me, even and I have this battle every day. I'm like, damn, like it's scary to post social media content. What's scarier? That I could have been a successful music artist, but I was too afraid of what people thought, so I never posted.
I'm gonna implement that all the time
Yeah,
because it's until like you've been given that perspective, it's hard to think that way,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. It's so it really like, what are you really afraid of? Let's talk about it.
Yes.
You know, because when it's put that way, it's a lot easier to understand. Like if somebody's like, for example, let's say I have a family, and then my career's taking off, and then my wife and kids are like, hey, we don't feel loved. In that moment, what are you really afraid of? That you're not able to make a couple extra thousands, or that you lose the people you love in your life, right? And it could be a different answer for everybody, you know? But you have to find that out for yourself. So I think fear is authenticity. It's primal. So just find out what you're really afraid of, and then you'll have the courage to do the thing that's not as scary. There's a quote, and it's like, the most true hell is when your current self meets who you could have been. So,
Yep.
um, you know, and that's not like, we don't have to shame ourselves for like not not doing that up until this point. But as long as we're alive, as long as you have time here on this earth, you can find out like, what am I really afraid of? You know? And I think again, like running it back is like, when my brother passed, like that's what death, premature death, does to you. Um, it puts your fears in priority, because that's the first question you ask. If I was to die tomorrow, what comes to mind?
So everyone's journey is just so special, and
Yeah.
this is what compels me to want to do things like this. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's so much value in the stories that we have, right?
Wow. I mean, thank you. What you're doing is special. Like, this is so crazy. So, congrats to you, because damn, we went beneath the surface for real.